At first, it was human rights issues that took me to tribal and indigenous cultures around the world. As a photographer, I wanted to bring viewers face to face with the people who were struggling to hold on to their unique way of life and their traditional beliefs. I became fascinated with the remaining cultures that commune with the spirits of rivers, mountains, animals, and their ancestors. While I was working in northern Kenya, I met Sakulan. She was a 37-year-old mother of 5. When she was 13, she started hearing voices and having visions, said she was feeling terrified, but her grandmother took her aside and told her she had a very special sensitivity, and then helped guide her through her crisis. Today, she's a highly respected healer and predictor in her Samburu tribe. Over the years, I've met many people like Sakulan, who could be labeled as crazy in our culture, but were seen as gifted in their own. People who transform their mental and emotional crises to become healers or visionaries for their communities. In the West, we often call them shaman. And I began to wonder, could there be something more to these experiences we call crazy? When I was back home in Seattle, I met a young man named Adam.
I was 20. It was 4 days after my 20th birthday, I went nuts.
Very compassionate. Be it animals, be it people, at a very early age, he was just really a happy baby.
Absolutely amazing. He's the funniest guy you would ever know. I don't know if you've seen that, but hysterical. Totally gifted athletically. He rode a 2-wheel bike at 2. At 5, he got into karate.
He ended up as one of the youngest kids to ever get his black belt. I think he got that when he was 11.
So in high school, when I met Adam, I was 15, he was 16. He had a cool red Jeep Wrangler, and he wakeboarded, and just really popular, outgoing, charismatic guy. Lots of friends, and he was always kind of challenging the status quo, so to speak.
He just knew what I was thinking a lot. I could be thinking of something completely random, and he would know it and tell me, and I mean, it would weird me out. And I've heard that from multiple people too, other friends of his.
I moved to Florida to pursue professional wakeboarding, and in that period is when I experienced that first depression.
July 22nd, 2004. That was the date. He started telling us a math equation that would solve all the family's problems. And it was a very simple one, but it made all sense to him, which of course to nobody else.
When it first occurred, it was very fun and exciting. It was just this total shattering, and my mind just opened, and I started thinking of all these different things. And in that sense, it was beautiful. I found it was the first time I had ever experienced a real connection to the universe, where I really felt like a part of this, that I was this was me. It was just like incredible. Then I kept going. And then I went way too far, and then it got scary.
And it was terrifying. Totally manic or totally depressed.
The rage that will occur in a manic episode is so scary.
You know, it's not who we knew as Happy Adam, Funny Adam, and then you had this Adam, like that.
I was surprised to learn how many people in the U.S. will suffer from a psychological crisis in their lifetime. And like many of the shaman I met, the crisis happens mostly in their youth. I met a young woman in New York named Akaya, who also had one of these episodes in her 20s.
I didn't know what was happening to me. I felt like my whole world was just exploding, like I was going into a whole different reality that I knew nothing about. I was very afraid to walk down the street because I thought people were all focused on me and judging me, and I thought everybody knew I had voices that would tell me to cut myself. It was like the voices were taking control over me. The visions were taking control of me. I was very sensitive to music, to sounds. I started to have very clear visions of dead people, like just appearing and watching me. So I felt like I had eyes watching me all the time. I started to see my deceased father, and he would show up in my room. And really, it was the scariest thing that I've ever experienced. I literally locked myself in a room for months. I took the light bulb out of the light fixture, and I became completely enclosed.
There was about a 3-day period of in my room writing equations and finding God in my notebook, and then finally my parents were like, "What you doing?" You know, and then I checked myself into a mental institution. That is not the place to get sane. They put me in this holding room, and there was no door, and there was a camera on the ceiling, and I was just laying on this bed, and this little girl walked into my room, and she was just staring at me, just with this blank, bizarre stare, and I kept asking her to leave, and she wouldn't, and there was all crazy people everywhere, and they were able to just come into my room. I immediately felt in danger and scared, and so I just decided no, and we went back to my parents' house and just kind of tried to figure out what to do. They put me on Depakote, and then that just started the whole process of, oh, no, now he's crying all day, let's feed him this one. Oh, no, now he's barfing all day, feed him this one.
And we went from one doctor to another doctor and one prescription to another prescription.
He was on every medication, I think, made for bipolar.
And they always say, well, every brain is different. Sorry if this makes you crap your pants. Maybe it'll work, maybe it'll make you kill yourself. I mean, like the disclaimer on these pills, that's typically the first side effect, is suicidal thoughts. And that's what the doctor is giving you to feel better. I mean, it's crazy.
Hearing of the struggles Adam and Akaya were going through made me want to learn more. So I started interviewing experts in the field of mental health.
In the United States, we've come to believe in the chemical imbalance theory of mental disorders. So we believe that you have some known deficiency with a neurotransmitter, and the drugs fix that, like insulin for diabetes. It was a valid hypothesis that arose out of understanding of how the drugs acted on the brain, and then it was investigated and found out basically not to be so. I believed it. When I was a reporter, I wrote about it. Depression is due to low serotonin, schizophrenia is due to too much dopamine. And I called up some top researchers, and I said, I just want to see the research that says you found that people with schizophrenia had too much dopamine, or you found that people with depression had too little serotonin. And I'll never forget the answer. The answer was, well, we never found that. And I said, what do you mean you never found that? Oh, it's just a metaphor, but it's not really true. Well, no, not really. And I was stunned by that.